Monday night, November the 17th, and you know what that means. Ringside Heat is on the air on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lex Tan, the host and producer of the show. You can follow me at Lex Tan Media. You can follow the show at Ringside_Heat. And right now, we've got a two-man ring crew here. It is myself and our wrestling memorabilia collector, along with his WWF Winged Eagle Championship belt. At Coco Collects is where you can find him with that big smile on his face that he had just a couple of seconds ago. Chico Nugget, there you go. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, with a face made for radio. A face made for radio. Just kidding. Hey, thanks for the welcome. Good to be back. Love talking shop about pro wrestling. Rasslin, that's wrestling. That's a real song.
Is that? That's really?
Yeah. If you look that up, Rasslin, that's wrestling. I don't remember who exactly sang it, and you can just listen to it if you want. It's the cheesiest little country southern wrestling thing, but it was brought to my attention on one of the shows of Busted Open. Every Sunday they quote it. It's pretty funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes me giggle every time. I don't remember who exactly did it, but
so apparently it was. So apparently that song you're talking about was sung by a guy named Glenn Goza, Goza, or for Canadians, Goza. And this particular clip that has popped up on my Google search over here was sung on July the 4th, 1984 in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah. So it's one of those people that they're almost just doing song speak, but with like a country twang.
Right.
Like Rasslin, that's wrestling. Like it doesn't even really have pitch. Like I just gave it, like for half of it, maybe.
Right.
Anyway, you can listen to it on your own time if you want to. It'll get in your head, man, because it's just so funny, just so 80s.
Yes, very much so, and
south.
it's it's apparently very, very much 1980s, as you said. I will definitely listen to this at some time because I can't play this on the radio unless I have the actual until I actually have the copyright information that I can quote on our SoCan logs and stuff like that. So for all of you listening over here,
hold on. I have a suggestion though.
Okay.
Why don't we get our resident folk singer, John Dawson, to cover whatever that song title is?
Rasslin apostrophe. That's That's literally what it is.
Man, I think John would make a killer version of this, man.
I think so too. It just
popped in my head.
I think so too.
He could put his own spin on it. Yeah.
So that's the challenge right over here, because I know John does listen to the podcast version or the radio broadcast afterwards. And by the way, speaking of radio broadcasts, we also repeat each episode now on Sauga 960 Wednesdays at 2 p.m. So if you're at work and you want to listen to something, you can listen to us at work Wednesdays at 2 p.m. On Sauga 960 AM. So hey, I'm very, very happy about getting a repeat there. We may actually change it up, maybe with the of course approval of Jyoti and Praveen over at Sauga 960, if we can actually get our first runs on the Wednesdays, and that would be that would open up our weekends and stuff like that, and make things get a little bit closer to the reviews and also the tee-ups as well. So, we might have some good changes coming up for us on Sauga 960 and here on YouTube as well. So stay tuned for that. Speaking of stuff to stay tuned for as well, we've got our next live streams, as you can see. For those of you watching on YouTube right now, to the left of your screen, to the left of your screen, there you go. To the left of your screen, we've got next Saturday, AEW Full Gear, November the 23rd, and that will be with Jose and Colin at the very least, and hopefully I can join in later on in the evening, and we can do our recording of the episode right afterwards. And of course, November the 30th, Survivor Series War Games, and Jose will not be there because he will actually be at Survivor Series War Games. And guess who just popped into the chat over here?
In the War Games match. Jose will be in the War Games match.
Into the War Games match, yes, it is. And guess who is here, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. John Dawson at John Dawson Music, Mr. Music Superstar. So, Juno eligible superstar.
Oh wow! Hey, thanks, guys.
Eligible. I love it. You're introducing him. Things are still loading. And Mr. Tan, I also love that you are asking for permission to shift our broadcast schedule whilst recording an episode. Very interesting methodology.
Hey, you know what? Anything to and anything to see what sticks. You know what I'm
saying? Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Oh, I can sure. I
sure
can hear you.
You're fine. All right. Hey, John. Just as you're coming on, I don't think you would have caught it yet, but I was listening to Glenn Goza's tune Rasslin. That's Rasslin. It's from like the early 80s. It's more like a Southern wrestling thing back then. I think you'd make a killer cover version of that in your style. I think it'd be kind of fun.
I didn't even know that.
Hey, first you'll have a laugh because it's kind of good hokey country fun. But I think you could actually turn it into something.
Dude, okay, there's some homework. I'm gonna check that out. That's really funny. I didn't even know that existed.
Okay.
Yeah, we just actually, before you got onto the chat over here, I actually just challenged you to we both actually just challenged you on the air to put together a cover. So well, now
challenge accepted. That sounds great.
All right.
On it. Yeah.
Now,
there you go. That's
John, you are free to retract that statement once you hear it if you think the song's absolute garbage. But
I would. Yeah, I have no shame. I'm accepting it now, but I will easily go back on my word if it is I have no pride.
Great. Great. What an introduction today.
Exactly. And of course, you can follow John on all social media at John Dawson Music. Pick up his album Outlier at johndawsonmusic.myshopify.com, which you can buy the 180-gram vinyl and some t-shirts as well at that website. By the way, John, tell us right now, how was Wayside? How was your performance at Wayside last Saturday?
I was great. The live stream's up on my YouTube channel at John Dawson Music, like the recording of it. It was a lot of fun. It was a really good night. We had a really good crowd. Like it's a small space, obviously. It's not a music venue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we were basically at capacity, and
oh man, that's great.
Yeah, it's just a great vibe, man. Everybody was there to really support the record, and couple people bought a record, and we were giving away t-shirts, and we had a lot of fun. Even got a chance, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I debuted the new single that's going to have a special connection to us here once it's released, and I've already sent you guys a version of it, but I played that for everybody there, and it seemed to go
that's right
well.
That's right.
So I'm excited
what
about
a tease.
Mm-hmm.
And what a tease indeed.
And when you told me about the concept of this upcoming single, I was very, very much just impressed just by the concept alone. And I know your musicality. I know how creative your musical brain works and everything. So I'm really looking forward to the finished product and looking forward to having the rest of the world know what we know here on Ringside Heat.
Thanks, Lex. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. It came back from mastering yesterday, nice and fresh, and Justin Perkins at Mystery Mastering did another fantastic job. Love it. Can't wait.
So awesome. What you're saying is it's ready for cassette tape.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's ready for cassette tape. Yeah.
Wow.
This one I'm not doing vinyl of, man. This is gonna be a strictly digital release, but physical media is expensive.
Oh yeah, for
unfortunately.
sure. Mm-hmm. But hey, you know what? And you know that would be something if they actually brought back cassettes.
Oh, they're coming. Don't worry, it'll come.
Oh boy,
It's
that's it.
slowly. It's an outlier now. Pardon the pun, but it is out there a bit. And but it's coming. It's coming. There'll be a resurgence. I don't really know why, but
Eh, the vinyl came back somehow, and hey, and it's a better world for it, as far as I understand it. But
I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
So before we go to break, I just wanted to get you guys to tell me about your wrestling highlight of the week, the really quick wrestling highlight of the week. Starting with you, Chico.
Now, I don't know how far we're going to go into actual wrestling on our pro wrestling talk radio show, but I just caught up to a bunch of things before we recorded this episode, and man, WWE's chugging along, man. I appreciate what they're doing. I don't know if it's the coffee I just had while watching, but I am enjoying the surprise, the Bloodline storyline. It hit a pretty good point on SmackDown. Now, let me just, for those of you who have not caught up a little bit, I thought it was going to be set for a 4-on-4 War Games match between Solo, Tamatonga, Tongaloa, and Mr. I Love You Solo, Jacob Fatu, which, by the way, always my favorite line of the week these days. I love you, Solo. I love that delivery. I thought it would be New Bloodline, or Timu Bloodline, as some people would say, or Temu Bloodline, versus the original or the OG Bloodline of Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, Jay Uso, and now also Sammy Uso.
That's right.
So I thought it would be that as a 4-on-4 match, and I was already excited for it. And I thought it took a wicked turn, or not a wicked turn, but a random turn on Monday when suddenly both teams were required to find a fifth man. I was like, what do we need that for? So Raw passed by, and neither team ended up with a fifth member, despite recruitment attempts by both teams. And then, I guess this is my favorite part of the wrestling week is the whole Bloodline thread. So it passed on Raw, and that didn't get resolved. Of course, you'd have to tune into SmackDown to find out. So Seth Rollins was one of the most interesting parts of Monday, and he refused both sides. So Solo approached him, and Sammy approached Seth on behalf of Roman. But Seth kind of staunchly stood his ground and said, like, what are you guys doing? I don't believe what you're doing, teaming back up with Roman. I'll never team up with Roman again. That kind of got definitively, or so we think, stomped on, no pun intended, by Seth Rollins. But on this past Friday on SmackDown, they continued it, and they by the end of the night, basically, long story short, the New Bloodline finally revealed their fifth member when in a really electric segment, both New and Old Bloodline brawled for a while. So it's 4-on-4 chaos. One team gets the advantage, then to the other, and then the other. And then suddenly Roman, after Superman punching like everyone in sight, gets attacked by a fifth person, and it was none other than Big Bronson Reed, who himself is part Samoan or entirely Samoan. I can't remember. He's an Aussie guy, but he's Samoan, so it makes total sense. And he's had feuds with Jacob Fatu on the Indies, so they're associated with each other from before for fans outside of WWE. So it just looked convincing. It looked good, and now it put the babyface group, the original Bloodline, on the ropes, so to speak. And by the end of the night, the good guys were encouraging the original tribal chief to make the call. He tried to make the call. It was a call the wise man, but the number was out of service. And then the credits popped on. So it's intriguing, man. They got me on the hook again. So I was already satisfied with a 4-on-4, but with Bronson Reed kind of making things a little interesting. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind this is going to lead to Seth being on the good guy team. We're going places with this Survivor Series.
And you know what? Maybe the phone, maybe the wise man's phone was out of service because maybe because maybe it had something to do with me over in Long Island last week. But anyway, we'll get into that later. John, what was your wrestling highlight of the week?
Well, I mean, all of that was pretty much it. But so I'm gonna do this because of his association to WrestleMania 14. My wrestling highlight, and I'm going to connect it to wrestling because of that, was a heartfelt interview from Mike Tyson with his son. Beautiful hug. And as he's walking away, seeing his bare ass. Had to be, has to be the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. The drama of the walk, and then just no pants. And I just said, why isn't he wearing pants? To my son. Why is he not wearing pants? There is no explanation for it. It's like the one thing with all the buffering issues everybody saw.
Yeah.
And
it just freeze framed on that.
It was like that was the one thing that didn't get missed was that.
Wow.
It is probably the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life, and easily one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
John, let me tell you, that immediately reminded me, speaking of tying it back to wrestling, it reminded me of Big Show versus Akebono.
Which one was that? I don't remember that.
Oh, no.
Sumo wrestling match at WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I remember
that. What was the term that what was the term again that Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake coined or inadvertently coined?
The
wardrobe malfunction?
Yeah, wardrobe malfunction.
So good.
Insert peach emoji here.
Well, there you go. Those are a couple of the wrestling highlights of this week. For those of you who are listening on the radio, you can reach out to us at ringside_heat and tell us what your wrestling highlight of the week was. And if you are watching on YouTube, drop it in the comments, and we'd love to read what you have to say. In the meantime, though, we're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to talk more about AEW stuff. That's AEW Full Gear that's coming up as well. And I'd love to also expand a little bit more you're saying about Netflix and the issues that they had with the Tyson and Jake Paul match, and how that could play into what's going to be happening with WWE at the turn of the year when they will be on Netflix. Back after these promotional considerations.
Tell me I'm wrong, but if we just walk away, we'll be giving in. Tell me I'm wrong, but if we just walk away, we'll be.
And welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. Lex Tan at Lex Tan Media, Ringside Heat at Ringside_Heat. Alongside me today at Coca Collects Chico Nougat, at John Dawson Music, John Dawson. Tune in next week for our AEW Full Gear live stream November the 23rd, our Survivor Series War Games live stream on November the 30th, and make sure you pick up a copy or add John Dawson's Outlier to your playlist on Spotify or YouTube Music, wherever you get your music. Hey, we'll all have a good time as well, watching and talking about wrestling over here on the stream on Ringside Heat. And before we get into anything else, during the break, we were able to find the actual track by Glenn Goza, Rasslin. That's Rasslin. And we just played it here for Chico and for John and for myself. And John, I think you might have something to say.
Oh, I definitely spoke too soon. Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting that. Fun, but the groove and the backing tracks, I'm like, oh my, I don't really know whose decision that was. A lot of questions.
It's kind of like for those who got to listen to it, I feel like it's a fusion of disco and like acid country or something. It's weird.
There's something, yeah, it's going into some strange places musically for sure. I don't even. I'd have to really study that. Kind of go. What seems to be at work here? But yeah, there's a lot of questions. I did enjoy the rep. This is clearly somebody who's watched a lot of NWA and you
Yeah.
know,
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
So
yep.
that was neat. I like all the references were kind of fun there.
Yeah, we got
But
the Freebirds, Roberts, Hayes, and Gordy, the Iron
yeah,
Claw, Carrie Von Erich delivering the Iron Claw, young Mike Von Erich with his Iron Claw, Chris Adams, Harley Race,
Oh
David
man.
Von Erich. Yeah, a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, he talks about the Von Erichs a lot in this song, actually.
yeah. So I mean that
Hey, they were
already.
big, man.
Oh,
Oh
yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, when this would have come out, what year would that have been?
There was
84?
there's yeah, 84 was one of those. Let's see. Glenn Goza sings Rasslin studio version, and then there is one. Yeah, so there's there. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, about 1984 was that live that live performance that he did, apparently.
Live performance. Where did he perform it?
I have no idea. I have to go look at the
Okay.
look at
All
the video
right.
again.
That's okay.
But he
Okay.
did do a live performance of it for a show. So there you go. Alrighty then. So let's see what we got here. Back to wrestling talk. We do have Full Gear coming up next week. So at the moment we have 9 of the 50 matches announced already that for AEW, which includes
I'm sorry, did you
big,
say 9 of 50 matches?
I know, yes, yeah, 9 of 50. Yes.
I
I'm
don't even know what
joking.
you said. 15?
No, I said 50 as a superlative.
Oh, okay, you did.
Yes. But I chose 50 because it sounds like 15, and so it's good, and so it'll play with somebody's mind, like what just happened just now.
Right.
So yeah, so let's see. Pre-show match announced is Big Boom AJ with Big Justice versus QT Marshall. And then into the main card, MJF versus Roderick Strong, Jay White versus Adam Page, Private Party of Isaac Cassidy and Mark Quinn versus the Outrunners, Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd versus King of the Black Throne, Malachi Black and Brody King versus the Acclaimed, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. Then we have Mercedes Moné putting up the TBS Championship against Chris Statlander, Swerve Strickland versus Bobby Lashley, who I saw at the big event. Actually, it was the entire Hurt the entire Hurt business was actually there, including Shelton Benjamin, which is pretty damn cool.
Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah, sorry, Hurt Syndicate. There you go. Yep, Hurt Syndicate. The entire Hurt Syndicate was there, and Machoverse actually got in with them, so it's pretty cool. Shout out to Machoverse. That guy, those guys are cool. Swerve Strickland versus Bobby Lashley. Jack Perry putting up the TNT Championship versus Daniel Garcia. We've got Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher, and then John Moxley versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW World Championship. And again, I don't think Orange Cassidy is going to take the title here, but the fact that he's getting another AEW World Championship shot and against John Moxley, that's a pretty damn cool thing for me.
Hey, let me respond on behalf of Mr. John Dawson for a sec, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you got AEW Full Gear. You ran down the card. I imagine that in John's mind, he would respond with, I heard you saying a bunch of words, but I don't really know what those mean together, or something English to that effect.
Again, Yahoo Serious Film Festival. I know they're English, but none of it made sense.
Or I don't know what he said. I don't think he knows what he said either.
There's a bunch of names in there that I'm recognizing. Oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh yeah, I know that guy. I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know who they're angry at. I don't know who's hurt them.
Okay, hold on. Not to be. Oh my gosh. Apparently Moxley did. Not to be too short changed, because I know I just can feel Colin, coming back at us with hey man, give them some credit. Okay, sure. They have been attempting to insert more storytelling, but I did try to watch part of Dynamite, and I can still see some things that they have yet to grow out of, such as pacing issues, like cutting to match card graphics when an emotional segment has just reached its peak and has not been allowed to breathe. I mean, it happened on at least one segment this Wednesday, but it's still something that they have amidst their production. I feel like that's a very basic thing, right? A very minute detail to me, but I think it's a practice that they still really need to improve upon, is to let things breathe, not just in camera cuts and production within one episode, but it also speaks to some of their storytelling, on the bigger picture scale. Because I feel like they just breeze through a bunch of things. They just suddenly it's like fever pitch in 2 weeks when the general public hasn't even had time to catch wind of the fact that like a Shelton Benjamin has debuted. Suddenly he's already having his dream match and losing, by the way, to Swerve Strickland. So I
Yeah.
mean, to me,
Yeah.
Shelton Benjamin's auspicious debut within 2 weeks, now he's just looking like another one of MVP's henchmen that hasn't really made any strides since the WWE part of that Hurt Business Syndicate thing.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, as he said, it's like, it's Shelton Benjamin first matchup against Swerve Strickland. Shelton loses, and Shelton, one of the best ever physical talents in the ring of this generation, and maybe of maybe amongst several generations. I consider him to be a generational talent, and for him to have to, and yes, I understand that Swerve Strickland, new guy, whatever like that, you want to put the guy over, you want to make him a little bit more popular, but the thing is, you also want to make sure that that Swerve earns that victory, and it's unfortunate. It feels like, from what you were describing, that Swerve didn't earn that victory against Shelton, especially because of Shelton just being Shelton.
It was too fast. It was like what's the term that some people say? It's like a fart in church. It's just like it just came and went and kind of left a little bit of a stench, and then it just went away. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But it just doesn't have that staying power. It doesn't have the impact that you want it to have, But I mean, hopefully Full Gear is a good show. AEW has this as a tendency, right? Like their pay-per-view events tend to be pretty good to great to amazing singularly. But then in the build-up and even in the follow-up, then things get lost in the shuffle, or like they try to cram too much into their programming where, you just don't remember anything, or like there's so many special things that nothing is special. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to think. I mean, it's reflected in perhaps live event ticket sales and general interest. Like even when they're doing some fun stuff, like the storyline that Mox and his formerly Blackpool Combat Club, now Death Riders faction. It's really cool what they're doing, but to me, it's a little lost in the general blasé people have about AEW these days. At least that's what I'm detecting.
What say you, John?
I don't know. None of this sounds very surprising for AEW. It's just, I don't get it. I don't get how they think. I don't get what they do. I don't get what people like. Like I genuinely, like, no offense. I mean, look, I respect you guys, but I genuinely don't find any of that interesting. I just don't.
You're not alone.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, there's things that I can take of interest in like, first of all, MJF just being MJF himself, and that little interaction he had with Machoverse over at the big event. That was fun, and just like, just knowing MJF and his personality, and for instance, Chris Statlander versus Mercedes. I actually kind of want to see Mercedes lose the belt myself, because she really needs to tweak that character of hers and figure something out. Chris Statlander could actually be a really good person to hold that belt, just by her working in the ring, just on her wrestling alone, is actually pretty good. And of course, I'm always going to watch an Orange Cassidy match no matter what, because it's Orange Cassidy. But other than that, no, I do feel that as well, John. I do feel that, like, it is hard to get emotionally involved with the product when the product doesn't allow you to really get emotionally involved with it.
Look, for me, it's the same engagement at the I'm not going to talk about the movie level here. Just it constantly reminds me of how I feel about Marvel versus DC. Now, DC can get very convoluted. I know that. They all can. But I find the DC cast of characters and the general arc of most of those stories pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel got a lot more complex in my mind. I don't know. I like between X-Men and the Avengers, everything that's gone on, the different versions, just absolutely, it feels very convoluted. I know this is an imperfect analogy. It's just a similar reaction that I've had. Like, I can understand Batman, I can understand Superman, I can understand these things, and I like these things. I don't know where to engage half of the Avengers and X-Men stories that have happened in the comics. Movies are obviously a different story, but do you know what I mean? And I just find WWE gives me what I want out of a story, and AEW just leaves me cold by every metric. I just don't. Again, it's nothing to do with the people in the ring. It's nothing to do with the talent. Good on them for doing what they can, and sometimes having to polish those turds that AEW is delivering. But I mean, like, come on, am I wrong? Like, the booking's crazy.
Yeah.
And but
It
you know,
can
they're
be, yeah.
doing it can be. I mean, WWE, it can be pretty ridiculous too. But
Oh yeah.
I just think overall,
But you get it.
I get it. It works for me. And again, WWE gives me the kind of storytelling I like, and I just don't think you can hold a candle to what they've been doing for the last couple years between Cody and the Bloodline specifically. It is just just night and day.
Oh, for sure.
Like, there is no comparison in terms of compelling narrative and being able to constantly reinvent and repackage things a little bit. And there's some tropes that are coming out we've seen before, but there's a continuity to it that's making sense. And it's a beautiful long story.
It is. Yeah, it really, really is.
And again, I don't know. I just don't really. I don't get it. It's like I don't know what they're doing. And again, they always feel like they're in such a reactionary position. And that bothers me. I see that with it, like, anytime, again, I've said this so many times. This is music. This is anything. Anytime you position yourself from a negative space as an antithesis to something else, you're unsustainable. You got to exist for you, not against something else.
Yes, exactly.
And all I've ever felt from AEW is that it's always been against something.
And that's and you know what? I'm sure that, like, there's a lot of wrestling fans out there who do see things the way you see it, and I totally understand where that comes from. And they don't, and that's the thing. There's wrestling fans who may have a different perspective and they don't see it that way. And those wrestling fans, I know that that you could be listening to this right now and you're probably seething right now. So I want those wrestling fans who see what we don't see about AEW, what John doesn't see about AEW. That's fine. We would like to hear from you. We want you to put some messages in the comments.
With a caveat, at no point have I made any pejorative comments about any of those people. And
of course not.
And
of course not.
No. And the point being, I'm not interested in people just swinging and trolling just to be jerks. Because if you're gonna do that, just don't. Like,
Right.
if people want to have a meaningful conversation, smart me up, man. I'm open to it.
Hmm.
But the part of the problem with this whole thing is exactly this, that a lot of the people who would come back and have a problem with anything I've said about AEW are going to do so in a way that I'll just be like, and you're just proving my point about
Hmm.
Mhm.
much of what I don't like about you. So
Hmm.
you want to be constructive and have a conversation, 100%. If you just want to tell me where to go ahead. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but you're proving my point.
Right, exactly. So we want to invite a meaningful conversation with all of us over here on Ringside Heat, and with all of you listening and watching right now. Drop your lines in the comments. Reach out to us at Ringside_Heat on X, on TikTok, on Instagram, and all of the social media platforms you see at the bottom of the screen over here. And you know what? And you know what? It'd be a good idea if you would love to smarten us up on AEW Full Gear, during AEW Full Gear, whenever we're doing our live stream, and also when we're doing the recording of the episode right after Full Gear gets off the air. We would love to hear from you at Ringside_Heat, patreon.com/Ringside Heat. That's Chico to my right, John Dawson to the bottom of the screen over here. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'll share with you guys my experience over in Long Island, New York for the big event, which was a really, really, really fun convention. And I would love to go back there again when March comes around. But we'll talk about that when we come back after these promotional considerations.
Tell me I'm wrong, but if we just walk away, we'll be giving in. Tell me I'm wrong, but if we just walk away.
And welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Lex Tan. At Lex Tan Media is where you can follow me. At Ringside_Heat is where you can follow all of us on social media, and all the social media platforms are down there, from YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, and Patreon as well. Patreon.com/Ringside Heat. Joined by at John Dawson Music. John Dawson, he's got an album out right now called Outlier. Make sure you download it, pick it up, pick up a physical copy as well too from his website, johndawsonmusic.myshopify.com, and wherever you stream music, it's going to be available there. So make sure you get on those hits and those follows. Over at to the right at Coco Collects, Chico Nougat. He is our wrestling memorabilia expert. And before we get into that, actually, I do want to, before we get into my adventures in New York last weekend, anything on the action figure front, on the collectible front from you, Chico, that has come by you lately?
Well, I mean, it's funny you should ask that, because I mean, I'll say their name once in a while, but Busted Open, one of their Friday topics was, they just went for a good half an hour or so just talking about action figures.
Oh, nice.
So there's something
Cool.
about that this week, I guess, or Slow News Day, depending on your perspective. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
action figures are real good, and I want to get into some of Ringside Collectibles exclusives, because they since CM Punk has come back into the fold in WWE, of course that means Mattel can make some really good retro and current versions of CM Punk. I think that he's their hottest seller on their website right now, which shows you again just the popularity of CM Punk, and the sustainability of selling his merchandise. They have a Ringside exclusive Ultimate Edition CM Punk, and it's in his Money in the Bank 2011 gear. And since it's an Ultimate Edition, there's a bunch of extra accessories. There's I think an extra head, and the head is like at the end of the match, his hair's a little messed up, and he's blowing a kiss to Vince McMahon as he's
That's
about
right.
to saunter off with the newly won WWE Championship. And so that head scan or head sculpt is one of the extras with that Ultimate Edition Punk Ringside exclusive, and a flat hand as well, so he can blow a
That's
kiss
right,
to
yep.
Vince. So I already have the elite version of that, but the ultimate is even better. So I might have to spend on that and pre-order that thing, because that's something that's been on my mind in terms of action figures.
That's great.
Mm.
Do you know if there's ever going to be, or if there's anything for like WrestleMania 40 specific figures? Like when might they do stuff like
Now,
that?
oh, I'm sure they're gonna do that, of course. I mean, why leave money on the table, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, it can't happen immediately. I think between all the scans and getting on the licenses and uh, permissions from WWE, big corporation, I think it'll be like they'll probably only announce WrestleMania 40 specific figures sometime in 2025 for like a release later in the year, because
Okay.
it takes a while. It takes at least 6 months, I think, at the
Right.
earliest. If they wanted to rush something like half a year, I'd say more like a year or so. So, but
I'm
I'm
very
looking forward
anxious
to
yeah.
getting that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like as
I'm very
many
excited about that.
WrestleMania 40 specific gear on the superstars from that weekend. Like I'm
Mhm.
totally down to hunt those down.
I would probably stop just shy of buying everyone on the card for that
Oh
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like that one. I think so. For that one, I mean, we were there, and like I feel like that
yeah,
would be,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
you know, that
And if
seems
they have
like
a
a
and if
no-brainer.
they have like a ring and a set piece as well,
Yeah.
I would pick
Oh
that up.
yeah,
I would
jeez.
so totally pick that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm preparing to spend quite a bit of money on those.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just something, right? Because all four or three of us, I mean, on this, wow, who am I counting as the fourth? Jesus, I don't know. So all
He's
three of
always
us
with us.
on the call right now, it was all our first times at WrestleMania 40, and so
Yeah,
it was just
Mhm.
such a special weekend. Every time I think about it, it's like just a
Mhm.
beloved memory at this point, and it's so
it's
good.
crazy.
I want
Whirlwind of
to
a
have it in
weekend.
figure form.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like to me, there's the ultimate souvenir. I have the program. It sits on my music stand when I practice. I still look at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine's in some sort of plastic packaging so it doesn't catch dust.
Oh, that's
So
smart.
it's
Yeah.
somewhere.
Mhm. See
And then I'll open it up.
my souvenirs from WrestleMania 40, I actually wore to the big event at Long Island last Saturday over at over at
Nice.
over in Brentwood, New York, and I have to say for the amount of big names that were there from the legends and from the current people that are in the scene right now. Wow, like congratulations to the big event for putting this all together, because it was it was big, it was packed, it was like in this in an arena, a small arena, but nevertheless an arena. And we had and I remember once I got in there, the lineup for Paul Heyman was just like from one end of the state of the arena to the other end of the arena, and you had to make sure that you bought your ticket to see Paul Heyman and to do whatever, your autograph, your pictures, whatever like that, and then you had to line up, because if you bought that, there's no refunds. If you didn't get to see Paul Heyman before he left, then you wouldn't be able to see him at all. So it's like I had to make sure that I saw him first before everybody else I was able to see. But I did get to, but before I got to Paul Heyman, because the back of the line was close by where Cassie Lee and Jesse, where Cassie and Jesse, the Iconics, the Inspiration, were at. I got a chance to chat with the Iconics, and you can see that on the on the website, on our social media. And I'll have to say, Jesse and Cassie are are two of the sweetest sweetest women that in this business. They're so genuine. They're so they're so ready to make a connection and everything. And it was just a pleasure to talk to them, pick their brains about the wrestling business and everything. And there's and obviously they're just two beautiful women. And like, yeah, it is it's not hard to see why the Perfect 10 found a way to get to the Perfect 10. So
Oh,
Yes,
Hey,
Chico.
I have a question. Did you get Jess McKay, otherwise known as Billy Kay, to say her catchphrase?
No, I did not. I
Not
couldn't take
iconic.
inspiration.
No. It's just I always found it entertaining during interviews or backstage segments when she would just find a way to put in, You gotta be joking me. Like, cause she's just a funny person naturally. So, you gotta be joking me.
Oh no, she didn't. I didn't get her to say that, unfortunately. But
Cool.
it was just it was just nice to talk to them as people, just not as the wrestlers, but as but as the people that they are, and it was great there. Talking with talking the Ontario Indies with Ali the Bunny as well was actually really cool.
Oh.
Shaking hands with JBL and with Farouk, with Ron Simmons as well, who were right beside Jerry the King Lawler and Lex Luger, Jimmy Hart, and it was funny. Jimmy Hart and Jerry the King Lawler. It's like, hey, I remember you. And I'm just like, oh my god, you do! Wow.
Nice.
But that's
like twice in a year we've met both of them.
Yeah, exactly, and it's and it's a testament to these guys. These guys, they go around the country, they go around the world, and they've been entertaining people around the world for decades now, and it's really cool. Even though, yes, more recency bias with Jerry the King Lawler because I saw him at the CNE last month. It's just really cool that they can actually remember the fans that do come and see them and actually make an actual connection with them. And making that connection with Jimmy Hart and Jerry the King Lawler back last year or over this past year is honestly something that warms the little kid inside of me, and the early wrestling fan. But Paul Heyman, I would say Paul Heyman himself was just a tour de force. That guy, this dude is this man is a man's man. This guy over here, and he's just and he's just like stoic. He's just he's tough. And he's tough and he's hardened, but at the same time, once I stepped in there with as I said, the souvenirs that I took from WrestleMania, the Undertaker's trench coat, which substituted as Paul Heyman's trench coat on top of my suit, plus your ECW hat, Chico, and then the headphones I got from work as well. He stepped in, his eyes got big and just like, whoa, I appreciate you dressing up like me.
Did he say that? Literally?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and it was and just to be able to shake his hand, his hand is huge, man. I've learned how to firmly grip in a handshake and everything, but my hands are kind of small, skinny. It's I'm not like Robin from Teen Titans with baby hands or anything like that, But Paul Heyman, he's got these huge huge ham hocks for hands, and just shaking his hand. It was actually it was hard for me to actually speak with him because he is one of those. He's especially the work that he's done with Roman Reigns over the past 4 years, and with Brock Lesnar before that. He became and CM Punk, yes, exactly. He's become this legendary figure to me, and I actually felt almost nervous to actually say much to him. But I did have as opposed to having conversations with JBL and with Ron Simmons and with the indie wrestlers that are over there, and also, by the way, Leva Bates as well too. Being Leva Bates, I actually got a chance to meet up with her after the con was done. She invited me to go and watch the show that she was wrestling at, and I really do love actually watching her matches live because the people in the crowd, just like you saw in AEW when she was wrestling on TV, when she would be on, it's like it's the most counterintuitive thing where everybody would be shh. Whenever she would be wrestling, and that's the great part about pro wrestling. It is such a fun anachronism of so many different things, and even that shushing the crowd, shushing people during the match is just an anachronistic thing in wrestling. But it works so well because of her character as the librarian. So shout out to Leva Bates, and also I also got an interview lined up with one of the indie wrestlers, a couple of the indie wrestlers in New York from the Long Island scene, which I would love to be able to put on. eventually, maybe in the next month or so, as we lead up into Christmas time. But if you are thinking of the big event, I believe they have another one coming in March. But go to these pro wrestling conventions that are not necessarily sponsored by any company, whatever like that. Just go to these things. You get to meet the people that you grew up with and idolized and watched on TV and inspired you to become wrestling fans or to be in the wrestling business and make connections with them. They say there's that old adage, never meet your heroes. No, meet your heroes, because these guys are awesome. Wrestlers, your wrestling heroes are awesome. So that's what I will say about that. Oh, so let me say it again. And to quote Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's all I got to say about that. What?
Wow.
What?
Yeah, no, that's
What
great, man.
what an event to go to, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to go with you. If I could have gone, I probably would have driven
Yeah, it would've-
alongside you. And anyone to give credit to for the invitation to get down there?
Yes, that would be Jersey Jim Beeringer from Full Press Wrestling, Full Press Sports. Thank you so much for the invitation to get down there and to.
Jim's a great guy, good friend.
Yeah,
of the
he
show.
is.
Yeah.
And hopefully next time, hopefully next time we'll have even more things to bring out there for the bring forth when we collaborate for the next big event that's coming up. Probably, I believe it's in March, but we'll get more information about that in the future. But thank you so much to Jersey Jim Beeringer for his friendship to the show, and also for getting me to go down to Long Island for this.
Fantastic.
That sounds
yeah,
great.
man. I'm glad. I hope I can go to the big event someday, or one of their events.
Oh, and yeah, and by the way, Kayla Braxton, she really is short.
That's interesting, because after WWE, of course, now she goes by Kayla Becker, and she, among other things, she's just started a horror podcast. So like horror movies, that whole macabre genre. So I guess that's a thing for her, and she has begun that journey. I'm not a big person in terms of the horror genre, but more power to her for getting to do some things that she had been interested to do, but of course was too busy to start while she was in the corporate structure of WWE.
I've
Exactly.
gone through phases with horror. There are times where I've really enjoyed it. So this is neat because it said this event. I mean, obviously they've got a lot of current. I mean, if Paul Heyman's there, even though he's not particularly active, he's about to be part of probably the biggest storyline in wrestling. Once again,
Well, if he gives Roman Reigns his current phone number, that's a reference to SmackDown. If he gives Roman Reigns his current phone number, then he'll be involved again.
then that's a big if, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe just he might just not might just be behind on his payments or something. I don't know.
He has been off TV for quite a while, though. You know.
Yeah. Not earning the money, I guess.
But one thing I did, that's one thing I did say to I did say to Paul Heyman, and just like, you know, to sincerely, like the one thing I was able to say to Paul Heyman after like getting over my nerves and everything, it was just to sincerely thank him for everything that he's done for this business, because he is Paul Heyman is he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. People revere Paul E for a reason, and it's because without him, wrestling wouldn't be what it is today. And those feelings were actually like were welling up inside me, just like, man, this guy is a reason why we're on the air here on Ringside Heat on Sauga 960. One of the reasons why. And can't think I can't thank Paul Heyman enough, you know?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
I honestly like. Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, I mean, yeah, Heyman's. The word GOAT comes to mind when you think of people who've been important at the creative and promotional level of wrestling. Significant. I mean, ECW really lit a fire under everybody's ass when it came around, and you know, he was on the ground floor of so much talent that would go on to be nothing but legends through several eras. You know, and that's just not a small thing. I loved him on. If you have
Absolutely.
not heard Paul Heyman's conversation with Rick Rubin,
Yes.
on Rick Rubin's podcast. This was a couple years ago now, so this was still very beginning of the bloodline stuff. But man, was it a deep dive. Highly recommended listening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So thank you very much again to everybody at Rings at the big event. Thank you as well to Victory Pro Wrestling and all those guys. Jack Tomlinson, the new New York State champion as well, which you can see on my TikTok and also on the Ringside on Ringside.
You seemed
on
to scare
Instagram.
him. You scared him. He seemed taken aback by your loudness.
Yeah, yeah, Lex E dangerously made its way. But I was watching because as Jack was saying, there was like a live studio audience of people that were watching us do this thing,
Nice.
and I was actually kind of like observing some of the faces in the crowd, and you can actually see that like holy crap, like their eyes went big because apparently I was able to get as close to a Paul E voice as they would recollect it in my impression. So
Okay.
so I was quite happy about that. But but at the same time, it's like I did come across as quite quiet before the camera went on. So
you got it. It's got to be like Lex A troublingly or something.
Yes,
Like
yes. Okay, there it is. Lex A troublingly. I'm taking that.
Workshop that a bit, but yeah,
workshop
something along those lines would be good, man.
Yeah, Lex I disturbingly. You can. There's a lot of ways you can take that. I think that's got to be something. We need feedback on that one. But
that's right.
Yeah.
So if you have any, by the way, so
yeah.
if anybody has it, anybody watching or listening right now has any suggestions on my on my Paul Heyman cosplay, there are some suggestions that were given by Johnny right now. Lex A troublingly, I like that one. If you have any suggestions, drop them in the chat, drop them in the comments, and also drop us a line on social media, which you can find on our screen.
Lex B precariously. I like this one. Oh man,
it's better than what I would be thinking of, which is just Lex F and go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
No,
efficient. Well, I'll be doing this all day now. Okay, I gotta go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we got to go too. We're a little bit over time on the radio side of things. So if you're listening on the radio, this segment is going to be cut for time, but you can always listen to the full segment on our Spotify. On our Spotify and our iHeartRadio, and as well on our YouTube account as well. So this brings me to thank Chico at Coca Collects, John Dawson at John Dawson Music, and thank you to all of you listening to Ringside Heat, which you can follow at Ringside_Heat, patreon.com/Ringside Heat. And you can follow me at LexTan Media. This is Ringside Heat, and we remember the things that you probably forgot. Take care.